And so desire can have a chance to fizzle out. However, there are so many ways to play with your desire and get to know your desire. Imagine your desire is a new person. So your physical capacity, it's also based on your mind capacity. What conceptually do you understand orgasm is? 9.8 is ejaculation. And I train my clients to stay at a 9.7 so that they don't premature ejaculate, but they also don't go into full-on ejaculation, but they just maintain 9.7. There's a breathwork practice.
Welcome to MAMWAA. I'm Gordy, your host, and this is the podcast that includes you into my most famous song lyrics.
He's a middle-aged man with an attitude, and he didn't even have one till he met you.
That's right, I'm the middle-aged man, and my attitude will chatter us through all things that I'm passionate about, from spirituality, the gym and fitness, food, travelling, and music or movies. Quick disclaimer, this list is not exhaustive. So you can get on or you can get off and join us for the episodes that you like the sounds of. Dip in or dip out, as long as you keep dipping. Either way, we've got something to say and we're going in 3, 2, 1 partner or more. However many relationships you're finding yourself in, be it with yourself or others, today we are talking with a leader of her own tantric program, someone specializing in tantra and sexual healing, empowering individuals and couples to cultivate a deeper intimacy, enhanced pressure, or relational freedom. So welcome to the show, Hani Cheng. How are you?
Good. I'm so excited to be here. How are you guys doing?
Good, thank you. Thanks for joining us. I believe you've just been over. Tell us where you are at the moment, firstly.
I'm literally in the top of a building in the middle of Hong Kong in the city. I was just eating dinner with a couple of friends who are in the AI scene, and then I popped up here to do the podcast, and I'm going to go back down to a cigar bar later.
Amazing. Sounds good. So it's 8 p.m. in Hong Kong, isn't it?
It's 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Literally just got back from Germany, Poland, Amsterdam, and Paris, and have been, traveling, dancing, teaching,
That's
lots of
brilliant.
tantra work.
I saw you were in Europe. So what was your how long were you here for?
I left at the end of November. So I was there for 1 month and maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Yeah.
Amazing. What was your
I actually grew up in Germany.
Okay, amazing. I've only been to Berlin.
So I went to visit my house.
That's great. What's your favorite part of Europe apart from Germany, obviously?
I really liked Amsterdam. I wasn't sure that like what it was gonna be like in Amsterdam because I've been there when I was a kid or just going through there as part of my college adventures. However, like as I went back this time, I actually realized that there was so much interesting culture in the Dutch sort of space. First of all, they're so compassionate towards equality, and equality is like such a strong part of the culture that even for dancers or for professionals or the way that they structure education gives everybody a chance to be to thrive and to be ambitious, and like anyone who has ambition to have the opportunity to really succeed. And so like in that aspect, it really inspired me, like the Amsterdam culture, and then also just the laws in which allow this kind of work, like tantra, to flourish, also was very, very cool.
Yeah, that's great. So I was in Amsterdam. I didn't go to, I think it's called the Sex Museum or the Body Museum. There's a museum, and I wanted to go, but I didn't get a chance to go. But what I was going to say is I did like a 2-week tour of Europe, and I went to 7 different countries, and it was I just loved it. Like the difference in each country was just outstanding.
It's so different.
I just love it. Yeah.
Like for example, like I do daily yoga videos, right? And I do them sometimes in a bikini. And if I do them in my house in Paris in an apartment, we have to draw the curtains because we don't want other people to look in and think something is happening. But in Amsterdam, like you're in the canal and there are these big like 3-story houses and along the canal, and not a single person's curtains are drawn.
Yeah.
And it's just beautiful Christmas trees and lit up, and you can see everything that everyone's doing. So already you can tell how liberal a city is by just feeling comfortable, just being and doing your thing with like passengers, like passerbys just looking in. So it's a very interesting sense of freedom.
Definitely. And you mentioned a lot of different areas of work then. So tell me, what's your background? Like, what type of work do you do? 'Cause you mentioned dance, you mentioned yoga, you're tantric, obviously. So talk me through your background. What have you done in the past? How did you get to all these different areas?
Oh my God, it's gonna be a forever story. My major actually is in biology, politics, and economics. I did 3 different subjects, and then my master's is in innovation.
Okay.
And what that means is that I do design thinking. I think of things in an innovative way, and then I break it apart and then I build it back up again to see how things can improve and where value can be added.
Is that anything
Um,
specific, or is that in a specific industry with innovation?
so for environment, economics and politics. When I actually was interested in green buildings.
Okay.
And but then I also took a class in an MBA class in a Drucker School of Management that put me onto transformational leadership, which is there's transactional leadership and then transformational leadership. How do you transform every single person that you have on your team in terms of personal development and professional development? And so that really intrigued me. And then in the same time, I also took another executive class in something called self-management, which is also executive minds, in which the person who taught us, Jeremy Hunter, he was a professor who combated cancer through mindfulness. And that class also introduced me to Thich Nhat Hanh, where then I went down to Deer Park in San Diego to do a retreat. And at 18 years old, you can imagine that's like something very unusual for someone 18 years old to be into mindfulness. And so that's put me on this path of like incredible, like just understanding of, our brains are neuroplastic, which basically means that it can increase or decrease the amount of receptors at the neurosynaptic cleft to process neurotransmitters as it increases or decreases. So whatever you do, you can change your mind, and your mind changes your chemistry, and your chemistry changes your mood and the results. And so that idea made me feel so empowered. And at that time I had a 15-year disease where I threw up 10 times a day.
Wow.
And I didn't know how to change that. And so when the doctors in the US only prescribed me with like millions, gazillions of medication, and none of the pharmaceutical medication worked for me, I was like, you know what, I need to actually change my mind, and I need to do something that is more alternative, because maybe that's what's going to help me. And so that put me on a path of understanding psychology, understanding healing, and then I went on to study 33 different modalities. I also at the same time was in Ogilvy digital marketing, doing a lot of marketing work for mobile apps, as well as APAC regional manager for a lot of like digital stuff. And so in that process, I learned about quantum mechanics on the level of healing, cellular healing. I have a quantum machine that can measure your information field, and I also learned how to break through that particular disease through changing my mind, changing my heart, but meditation, and also choice, understanding my sovereignty in the way that my health and wellness worked. The thing that really, really, really made a big difference as well is understanding the Maslow's hierarchy. And I basically changed my entire habits and relationship towards food, and also my body image. And then I went up and I was like, okay, if I did that and I hired a personal trainer, I went to the gym 3 times a day, and it still didn't cancel out this behavior where I was throwing up. I was literally in the boardroom and I'd be throwing up, had to excuse myself, throw up, come back, continue the pitch to my client. So I was like, okay, if that's not going to work, maybe I had something psychological. That's when I went into NLP, neurolinguistics, and like all this brain stuff. Changing your mindset shifts. And then when that didn't work, I was like, maybe I'll go up to and further up and up and up to self-actualization, which is where spirituality came in, energy medicine came in, healing came in. And that's when I did plant medicines. That's when I started understanding my purpose and role in the grand scheme of the context. I remember during a plant medicine retreat with a boga, a African plant, because ayahuasca didn't work, I asked myself this question: am I ready to let this disease go? And deep within me, before the question could even end, a voice came out and said yes. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's like a voice in me. There's an inner voice that actually speaks to me that I'm not controlling. And without a shadow of a doubt, I knew that that disease was gone, but I also knew that I needed to be on my calling. I needed to be on my path. And this disease was actually not something that was a detriment to me. It didn't hold me back, because I was actually really devastated that I had that at the age of like 25 or 27. But it was actually a lesson, and everything I had learned up until that point, 15 years, 33 modalities, it was my opportunity to share this with the world. And and I also knew that I wasn't going to come back, but I had to be on that path of doing that. So I needed to quit corporate and start my own business, and then figure out how to travel around the world to share this information in whatever way. And I was never an entrepreneur. So it kind of like started like that. And then I was like, okay, fine, I'll do it because I don't want to be sick. And then and then I'll do it. I'll cut this deal with my whatever inner voice. And then I started teaching people how to access their inner voice. Did shamanic drumming, taught in the middle of Hong Kong in this busy ass street. Imagine Times Square in New York, and you're just like in there with like this thing, and like taking people through like meditation and energy work. And then that was like another 5 years where I developed my own system of connecting with the heart, connecting with the inner voice, and then clearing any possible energy, narcissistic energy, negative energy, judgment, all that. And how did I get into Tantra? Because I realized that when I was doing so much energy work, what happened was that people was just spinning up in vibration, because, you know, we have vibrations from like neutrality to joy and to like peace and like ecstasy, and then we have all the way down to like fear and guilt and shame and all that, right? And the consciousness, frequency of consciousness. And so people were spinning up and up and up, and I needed to ground that energy. So then that's when I took up dance. In the dance video, I needed to find an exercise that was connection based, because I like connection. I liked the video actually showed me that this person, these is like a partner dance, that she was almost experiencing an orgasm in the dance. It looked like it, at least when I was looking at it. And I was like, I want to feel like that. And I want to exercise, and I want to do these complex movements, and I want to be able to like express myself artistically through my body. And that's how I got into dance, ground that energy that was spinning out. And then how did I get into Tantra? Tantra was basically understanding that our energy is everything, you know, like anything we do, how we communicate, how we connect, like how we create success in our lives is all about our energetic alignment to whatever that is. It's like it's before things manifest into physical reality, like that's where it begins. And if we run out of energy, we can either eat food and get more energy through physical like nutrients. We can think positively and get, you know, be relieved of draining energy. And we can also create energy. And energy creation can come from our own sexuality. It can come from our sensuality. It can come from love, right? Our heart energy. And so I was like, you know what? I really want to learn how to harness this nuclear reaction of energy power that's within us. And sexuality is one of the coolest and most purest and like loving way that you can do that. And so that's how I got into Tantra in 2015. And then I went to study it, and I studied at this place that there was a class called OIC, observation of intense coming, where a woman was coming for 2 hours. And I was like, how does that even happen? And that gave me a lot of curiosity about, okay, how does the woman's body work? How does the clitoris work? How can we experience waves and waves of pleasure without being exhausted? And how can I do this without overstimulating myself? And how can I do this in my heart? How can I do this in my body? And once I learned that and shared that with people and men, like, you know, it was just incredible to come from a place of connection, integrity, and energetic freedom. Sorry, long story.
I've got so many questions.
I'm glad. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna spill it all on you.
No, that's great, because it gives us a complete viewpoint of start to finish. Like, well, not finish, because we never finish, really, do we? But from there to now. So I think the first thing, going all the way back to something you said a couple of minutes ago, was, as somebody so young to get into mindfulness or using your mind, what was the action, or what happened for you at that age to think it's not a physical thing, this is something much more than physical? Like, because not a lot of young people, they'll just go to doctor, take medication, they're not conscious. And it's not often you see young people become conscious so early. So what was it for you?
I mean, I think it was just like the idea that, you know, I was throwing up like 10 times a day, and I knew that was not normal. You know, I knew that the society would call it bulimia. And I knew it wasn't only that, because that I can just take something and suppress the nausea, right? And it would go away. And so when the doctors gave me antidepressants, I've tried every single brand that was available at that time in my student like health clinic. And then I also tried every single medication for bipolar because they diagnosed me with bipolar. And then they diagnosed me with anti-anxiety or like general anxiety, GA. And then they diagnosed me with so many different things to the point, and then they just increased the milligram from like 10 to like 60 over a titration period of like a month or two or something like that. And when I went through all of this medication and I went through all of these things, and then I just asked myself, like, dude, like, do you even know what you're doing? You know, you're just going through every single item down the list.
Yeah.
And I was like, there must be a better way for this. And so, and the thing was, it fucked with my, sorry, I don't know if I can start, but with my body, my biochemistry, right? So I would wake up one day on these antidepressants, no kind of like no shade on anyone who's on it because it can really support your serotonin balance. However, for me, like what it did was it removed me from myself. So I would go to class and I would feel like I'm actually not really here, but I'm here. And I felt like there was a wall or a cloud between me and reality. And I was thinking to myself, you know, I don't really want to live like this. Like, what kind of a life is this? Like, I really, like, I'm a kind of person I want to feel alive. And to be able to feel alive, that's presence, right? That is being here and now. Like, that's being okay with my emotions. That's not being afraid of like the reality of things. And this is what mindfulness taught me. And that's what resonated with me. I was like, I need to have that courage to be vulnerable. I mean, at that time I was so insecure because I was so young, you know, and when you're 18, 20, like you're insecure about everything, your existence, your identity, your boyfriends and girlfriends, and you know, everything is like, is it cool enough? Like, do I like this? And so at that time, like, I was like, I just wish I was really in and out confident. And that's what turned me on to mindfulness and spirituality, because it's like, I want this to be so real that it just is there. You don't have to try, you know? And so I was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it natural for me because that's most energetically efficient.
I always found antidepressants made me feel like I was having an outer body experience. You know, like I always felt like I was outside of a bubble and I wasn't included in my own life. And it just, yeah, it didn't sit well with me either. But again,
Felt like it like just numbed my senses.
yeah, literally. I felt like I was observing what was happening around me rather than actually being in it. So then, kind of further down this line, then you were talking about frequencies, and I'm big on frequencies. Like I released a frequency album.
Nice.
Yeah,
Oh my God,
so
I love it. I want to hear it.
what I did was I put different tracks together based on
Uh-huh.
taking that full journey on different
Mm.
frequencies for like either an hour meditation or just focus on one intention. But that brought me to what you were saying about a woman dancing. It looked like she was having an orgasm and stuff. So do
Yeah.
you, I don't know the answer to this. That's why I'm going to ask. But is there a frequency that you know of that relates to orgasms and the sexual side of people?
Definitely. There's definitely a frequency. So, for example, when I'm holding that frequency, right, my lover would really be able to tune into that and feel his arousal as well. And then sometimes I find myself saying during intimate moments, like, yeah, like let's take this higher. Yeah, let's go higher. Let's go higher. So there is this like co-creative aspect of us both understanding that okay, there's a place that we can go higher. But what does higher actually mean, right? Does it mean more ecstasy? Does it mean more connection? Is it more intensity? But like unconsciously we already understand, okay, let's go higher together. We're going on this higher frequency, right? And I just pulled up a map here. You know, reason is at a frequency of like 400, for example. It's a vibrational scale of frequency. And let's say shame and guilt are at a 30 and a 20. And love is at a 500. Joy is at a 540 hertz. Peace is at 600. And enlightenment is 700 and above. So as you're going higher and higher and higher, you're really reaching this like global consciousness of like full love, peace. Some people just say, I feel so peaceful, you know, and send an orgasm. It doesn't have to be the pornographic, intense, like like that kind. Nothing wrong with that, but there is that version, and then there's also this version of calmness and a version of acceptance and wholeness, right? And a place where it's like in complete unison with the entire existence of life, and that space is so nourishing and healing, and that's sort of a frequency you can also embody in the state of orgasm. It can be so beautiful. Yes, your body is vibrating, you're convulsing. However, there's an expanded bubble and cradle of love that is holding you. So it feels incredibly just like, oh my God, I'm drinking like the nectar of like health, you know?
Yeah, that's really interesting, because I would assume then that everyone's climax frequency would be different based on them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Based on the capacity that you have. So a lot of the tantric work that I do a lot of massage in your body because you have a physical capacity of how much energy you can hold. So your physical capacity, it's also based on your mind capacity. What conceptually do you understand orgasm is? Is it a time, like if you have to plot it out on a y and x axis, is the x axis time and the y axis intensity, and is it like a sharp sneeze peak, or is it a long wave peak, or is it a very gradual like saturation, right? So dependent on like what variation of orgasm that is, that can be the case. And so then you're changing different frequency as you're expanding in that pleasure. And then there's mind, there's body, and then there's energetic as well. Like how much can you share with that person, and can you expand it? So sometimes you can go into a couple rounds of it, which is trainable too. So everyone's frequency of orgasm is different,
Yeah.
and it's ever changing because every single time is different too. There's so much to it.
There is. So if we break it down, then I'm going to start with one of the key points. I'm not quite 45 yet, but
Yeah.
for men over 45, desire can fizzle out. And if we talk about sexual desire, firstly, like as an individual, rather than as a co-creation, like what is it inevitable? Like, does it have to happen? Like, what can we do about that?
Yeah, so desire is just like fitness, right? So desire is something that is a flower. You want to be able to water your desire all the time. And so it is a common misconception that it fizzles out because, yes, we do have stress, we do have hormones, and those chronic stresses increases the cortisol, which suppresses the testosterone and the hormone that actually drives libido. So we do have that chemical thing that, is lowering libido. And there is hidden shame as well, internal messages like men must always perform. Especially when you have a family and you have kids, you're just like, okay, this desire thing is just a checkbox on the list of what I need to do to maintain my relationship. That can also reduce the natural desire, and relationship patterns can also reduce, right? You can often fall into this like monotonic, like monotonous kind of rhythm with your partner. Nothing bad, it's just something you're used to, right? It's like going for a walk every Sunday, and it just happens to be that every time you do sex the same way. And so desire can have a chance to fizzle out. However, there are so many ways to play with your desire and get to know your desire. Imagine your desire is a new person, right? So oftentimes I assign my clients to connect with themselves in a different way in your self-pleasure practice. How are you going to water your flower that has wildered? How are you going to water it so it becomes excited about the world again, right? And so in that sense, I always ask and invite people to start touching themselves differently using strokes, because a lot of times when you go from a goal orientation to going from a goal orientation to a emergent nonlinear desire pattern, the places that you feel aroused by is also different physiologically speaking. So that can come into 3 different ways. So first, you can change the touch that you have. So touch in terms of pressure, in terms of placement, and in terms of speed. And the second thing is you can change your mindset. You can have a different intention. Maybe the intention, instead of goal orientation of going into climax and ejaculation, could be, I want to just explore new areas. I found so many places in my clients that, that can be extremely arousing. There are places inside your thighs, inner thighs, that can send electric jolts into your toes, right? There are so many different areas in your body that create sensation that you may not even know yet, because you're so used to going through a certain stroke at a certain location at a certain speed. And so that's what I encourage. Find the novelty. Treat it like a new flower you've never seen, and try to water it in a way you've never watered it before. So that's sort of like the mind and the creativity aspect of it. Stress reduction, you can use mindfulness practices to reduce stress, resolve it through therapy or through talk therapy or energy work to resolve energy tension. Any traumas, any feelings of undesirability need to be released, because that's just simply not true, right? When you are in your confidence, you're infinitely attractive and desirable. And then you can also optimize your hormones through prioritizing 8 hours of sleep, physical activity,
Yeah.
and zinc-rich foods like nuts, seeds, and shellfish also support testosterone production. So that's, and then curiosity and novelty, rekindling your spontaneous, like first date type experience with your loved one.
Yeah, I
That
think
can always be fun.
I was just thinking about this, and a lot of, I'm going to say, experimentation or interest, excitement about this through puberty comes from a trauma response about sex or intimacy with yourself and other people. The other side to that, just based on what you were saying, was bad habits, especially at my age. I'm lucky enough to have been at the gym for like 15 years. But I used to eat really unhealthily. I used to smoke 30 to 40 cigarettes a day. I used to drink every other day. All these bad habits, they play a massive part as well. And we can't fix everything, but what would be the key things? If we say for men first, what's the key thing as a man that I can't give up everything and be an angel and live a perfect, healthy life? What else can I do?
I would say that the key thing that you can probably get your bang for your buck, or like the highest value thing, is just playfulness and presence. If you can sit there and look into your partner's eyes and literally just breathe with them for a second, and then look at them like you've never seen them before. Check out their like wrinkles on their face, look at the light that's like reflecting in their eyeballs, and touch their skin on their face and the tip of their nose like you've never done before, and slow down like 20 times. I would say like that is going to increase desire immediately by just being present and breathing with them. And then instead of trying to have sex with them, play with them, tease them, give them compliments, and just rekindle that. Desire is so natural, when you're connected with someone, it just automatically is there. Like when you're in a moment of true connection and love, desire just arises. When you truly see the other person and their heart and their soul and their unguarded spirit, you just appreciate them and you just want to get closer. And so if there's anything, just be with them fully, 100%.
What about non-couples?
Non-couples,
Yeah.
and how to get desires through that.
Yeah.
Be with them too, right? Like if you're taking the same concept, you can be with them and be curious, right? So it's curiosity. Like what are you desiring right now? What do you feel like, asking questions? What do you feel like is going to make today the best night that you've had? Like what's your heart desiring? What is your body desiring? What is your skin desiring? Do you want to hear something? Like what would be affirmative to you? Do you want to be validated? Like what is something that you want like that you're proud of, that you would like me to reaffirm? You know, because sometimes it's emotional intimacy, sometimes it's physical intimacy someone's desiring, sometimes it's energetic intimacy, sometimes someone just wants to be held and loved and just affirm that they are such an amazing human being, right? And that gives them all the juiciness that they need. So be curious if it's a new person or a person you haven't seen and been with for a while.
Yeah. So, I mean, that covers desire. I'm going to ask what your thoughts are on sexuality, because it's obviously a spectrum. And when you're experimenting to figure out who you are as an individual, and you want to find out what your future is going to hold in this kind of desire space, what about people that are developed into like believing, or I say believing, they're asexual, or they don't have desires, they don't have attraction, they don't have any of this, and they're going through life in that sexuality believing that they cannot or they do not have that? Do you think that's amenable? Do you think they can move around the spectrum? What's your take on that?
I don't know if it's something that you necessarily want to direct around. So I have a best friend who has gone from a she to a they, and then from a highly sexual being to an asexual person. And so I don't know a lot about all of this except for some of their sharings with me. So I'll speak from that perspective.
Okay.
What I notice from that is that there is a spectrum. Even when they are asexual, they can still be having sex. It's just that they experience desire and excitement with different pathways, right? And it doesn't mean, so they might not experience it in the same way as a Hollywood movie might be depicting what passion is. And I find that that's actually quite a pressure-free way of relating to passion and relating to sexuality. Just to so for me, like what I take away from that understanding is to look at passion, look at connection, look at closeness, and look at love through the eyes of complete experimentation. It's like you're playing a new computer game for the first time. You don't know what each button does. You have no idea, like, if this RPG game is going to lead to another map. You don't know what this tree, if you poke it or whatever, or this weapon does. You know, you have no idea. And so if you just look at that from a perspective, no matter what your sexuality is, just look at it from, hey, like, it's maybe not desire, but maybe it's sensation, you know, maybe it's sensuality that I'm into. Maybe it's connection, like a heart connection that I'm into. Maybe it's emotional connection that I'm into. You just kind of look into and keep following the breadcrumbs of pleasure, something that makes you smile. The sex is also known as making love, right? You made love with someone, let's make love. This is like proper love making, like love making. So if you're making love, more of love, if in this situation when you're together, you're creating more love together, then you're already making love. Like, you don't need to have intercourse to make love.
Yeah.
Love can be made where both people are choosing to focus on heart expanding, holistic feeling, connective, accepting experiences.
So then, it's a bit of a really open question. I don't know what the answer might be, but if you can't, I don't know how to word it really. If you don't feel attraction to the physical person, and you can be aroused by kind of a personality or an energy, that's one thing. But what if any of the listeners are going through life like, I don't have either? Is like, what would your advice to them be? To like try this or try that, because they're not getting this desire and this pleasure that other people in life are getting, if that makes sense.
I would definitely say try. Well, first of all, don't measure yourself with other people's desire, right? Like what turns other people on is not going to turn you on. And also turn on in itself is a different pathway. So again, just I don't know, de-stress yourself by removing this arbitrary standard of what desire is. And then secondly, play with yourself, touch yourself, get to know your body, like what feels good to you. And that should be enough, right? To like, it doesn't, you don't need to take it to a point of any point really. Like if you just had 5 minutes and you can just give yourself the best touch in the world, whether that's a hug or a self like caress or like that's fine, that's good, that's fine. Like a lot of people don't even have 5 minutes a day to give themselves love. And so that, and you can and then through that experimentation you can always document, right? Have a chart if you're kind of like, you like to approach this from a like a researcher hat, right?
Yeah.
So on one column, you can put all your body parts. And then on another column, you can write the touch that you experiment. Do you like light touches? Do you like those scratches? Do you like really strong grabs, right? And then you put that. And then you can always rate it from a 0 to 10, 10 being super fun and arousing, and then 0 being nothing, and then 5 being maybe like very pleasant, right? So you make up your own rubric, and then you just go down the list and you experiment. Back of the arm, in front of the, you can do this with a partner, you can do it with yourself, in front of the vagina, oh, underneath the balls, okay, maybe on the side, right side of the butt, left side of the butt, in between your toes, at the tip of your tongue. Like, so you just go through each of your body parts, and then you just take a little audit, and you're like, okay, cool, like maybe there are certain places, oh my gosh, like I didn't know I could have these sensations here. And that's where you can have the opportunity to go in one layer deeper. So the next time you come around, you can be like, I'm going to check out all the 7 to 8s or 7 and aboves. And then the next time you check it in, maybe you're like, I'm only going to do the 10 out of 10s today, and explore that for like half an hour. So treat it like a project that is waiting to be discovered. You are Christopher Columbus and you're looking for some treasure. And each time you will find different sensations in different parts of your body. And they change with your mood. It changes with your confidence level. It changes with your body image. So don't get attached to it either.
I think that's that's really useful for when you've got partners, whether it's long term, short term, or overnight. Like, because you can communicate clearly, this is what I need from you, isn't it? Like, you can be.
It's absolutely incredible, right? So, for example, in the middle of your, like, you could be like, let's say you're in a position where the woman is under, the man is on the top, and you know that, like, I know that when the person maybe knows that when their love handles are being grabbed, and when the hand is like 1/3 across their bum, and when it's squeezed into an angle that that is opposing the force that's coming down, that feels good to them. Then they can just be like, can you put your right hand on my your right hand on my left butt cheek, but then turn it so that your palm is in my waist, and then pull it up slightly while telling me sweet affirmations about how beautiful I am in my ear. You can be very specific about what you want.
Yeah.
Because that turns you on.
So then I'm going to blow some relationships wide open right now. But if we take this and then go, there's relationships happening as we speak where partners are not communicating, and they have a fetish or a kink that they don't tell a partner about, and they're off doing that elsewhere because they don't know what the repercussion of that will be by communicating with their partner. Is there it's never that simple, but is there a simple yet effective way that these people can open that up to their partners, whether long-term or short-term, without keeping themselves enclosed in these fear states?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have a whole video that talks about like the 10 do's and don'ts to do when you're having a conversation about sex with your partner. So that on YouTube can definitely, it's a longer description of like the entire structure of the conversation. However, like I think like something that is extremely, and I think that something that's extremely useful is curiosity. So for example, if someone wants like a prostate massage, for example, and they think that it's just like so taboo for some reason in their relationship because they've been together for like 2 decades and it's never been a topic, and it's just like, why now, like, well, how can I bring this up with like the mother of like 3 of my kids? And so the question could be something like, I've been just curious about exploring something new in our sex life. And I wonder if this is something you're open to explore too, to add some excitement and maybe to help each other feel more loved and also add some variety into our interactions. That could be the first question. And then would you like to have a conversation about that? And can we book in like 30 minutes to talk about this over champagne or something?
I
And
like
and
that.
then
Pop the bubbly.
right. Yeah. Would you like that? And then be like, I would love to make this a game. What are some of the things you've always thought about but you've never dared to say? Like never have I ever kind of like kind of that kind of a vibe, like a sleepover, spin the bottle, never have I ever, like that vibe. Take that vibe and be like, what are some of the desires or like like the thing that is like hidden in the cupboard that we've never told each other, even we've been together for 20 years, and the rule of the game is no shame, no blame, no judgment. We cannot do that. And if we feel like we're going to judge each other, we just have to say pause. We go outside and judge whatever we need to, and then when we're done with that, we come back and then it's a safe space again. So if you get triggered, just like take a pause and like we agree that that's what's going to happen, and it's never about the other person, it's just about us, because triggers are always about ourselves. And so just kind of like set that tone, and then we can always say, and then we can like at the 30-minute mark, we'll check in to see if we want to continue this conversation or we're going to do this conversation, like continue another time. So give the parameter, because sometimes people have like a capacity of how much they can talk about this topic.
Yeah. I think approaching that, going back to something that we discussed about 20 minutes ago, is with a research hat on, if you have a judgment on something, and this is from the growth mindset perspective, rather than when you leave that situation with that judgment, do some research on it. Just find out a bit more about it, like if you need
Yeah,
to,
you have
because that
chat
will help so
gpt,
many
dude,
people.
so
Yeah.
just type it in there. I think it's going to violate some policies, but whatever. Type it in there. They always have like some red like side note, and I'm like, oh
Yeah.
man, it's probably thinking. And type it in there, research about it, and then ask it to be like the expert in that area, and then give you some exercises that you can do, and then see if it appeals to you. It's just there's so much to learn about yourself in this area, and it's limitless. Pleasure is limitless. If there's any like, it's just an infinite space. You cannot feel like the end of pleasure. It's not like you feel pleasure and it's like, okay, it's done. It just continues opening up, building, building, building. So it's interesting
Yeah.
topic.
Well, you might ascend so much that you leave your body behind. So be careful.
Grounding cord. You always
Yeah.
need to ground yourself. When we do our micro orbit breathing or big draw breathing, which is how people can stay, let's say 9.8 is ejaculation, and I train my clients to stay at a 9.7 so that they don't premature ejaculate, but they also don't go into full-on ejaculation, but they just maintain 9.7. There's a breathwork practice where you save that energy inside your power center, and that particular one specifically, that you do need to ground that energy so you're not just getting out of control. But the orgasm is incredible from that one. So grounding, very important.
Yeah. So I was just going to mention from that, you've got a 6-week program, don't you?
Yeah.
And what's that?
Yes,
Tell me about that program.
it's called Sexual Liberation
Okay.
Program. And so we go through so many different components about, what is your sexual blueprint? What is your erotic blueprint? What turns you on sensually, kinkily, energetically, and shapeshifterly? So there's like blueprints on all these different types of sexuality that you could be having. That's in module 1. And then we also go through all the practices of these, full body orgasm. How do you get multiple orgasms? How do you even understand orgasms in a different way so that you can go from, performance anxiety, premature ejaculation, or pain during intercourse for women, to relaxation, non-performative acts, and authentic intimacy. So that's still module 1. Module 2 is clearing those blocks, all the blocks. Module 3 is all about communication. We go through what to talk about before sex, during sex. How do you train each other to give each other the chef's kiss of touch and arousal? And then 4 and 5 and 6 are about really putting them all together, building rituals with your partner, making it so sexy and comfortable, and then how to apply that sexual energy, like we spoke about earlier, into success, into money manifestation, or impact, or positive leadership influence, through a channel of just, letting that creativity, because sexual energy is creation energy. You're using it to create a baby, or you can use it to create a project. So if you create something that's in alignment with your mission, you're taking that energy and you're channeling it into things that will become reality in the real world. And so how do you do that? So those are also parts of the program.
That's
So yeah.
great. And where's that? Where can people
That's on my
enroll?
website. Oh yeah, so you can, first of all, you can just download this thing called Four Tantalizing Questions, which is an ebook that asks you 4 questions that can really reveal a lot of the topics we talked to you about. And then once you sign up to that, then you'll get a series of emails that will then also share more about the Central Liberation Program, or the Sexual Liberation Program.
That's fab. And
You can
then,
also find it on my website.
yeah, no, that's brilliant. And then I was just going to ask you, you've done some work on microcosmic orbit breathing, and I was really interested about that.
Yeah.
What is that?
So the microcosmic orbit breathing is a breathing technique that is discovered and introduced by Mantak Chia, the guy. He's the author of Multi-Orgasmic Man. Definitely get that book. Super
Okay.
cool. It teaches you how to have more and more and more orgasms with non-ejaculatory pathways. So semen retention. So men, when they have orgasms, they lose energy. Women, they gain energy. So then you want to retain your semen, but still have that full body experience. A lot of men are like, but then it won't be as fun. But literally, like every single person that I've like taught this to and have practiced it, they were like, it's just a different frequency of orgasm, and I feel so like, I feel like my body is like, breathing.
Yeah.
It's less concentrated on the shaft, but it's concentrated, it's like spread out more, the
Okay.
pleasure. So microcosmic orbit breathing is a sit or lie down comfortably kind of exercise, like a meditation. So you're imagining the energy moving in a loop. So you're taking a deep breath in from the base of your spine, and then you're imagining the air going through the back of your spine up to the top of your head, and then you exhale and you let that energy flow down the front of your body into your pelvis, and you're imagining this energy like an oval shape going from your pelvic region up to your head and then down to the front. Every single yoga practice that I do in my YouTube video, we teach that in the beginning. So the first 5 to 10 minutes is always this breathing exercise, and what it does is that it circulates the energy. So you're not losing energy outside of your bubble, but you're keeping it in your bubble. And that way it has a cumulative effect of building upon each other. And what that does is that, just like waves, when you learn waves and sine waves and cosine, whatever, so when you have 2 waves together, then the amplitude is higher. And that creates a more higher opportunity and more potential for you to get to a higher frequency experience of that energy. So a lot of my clients feedback to me that they feel like they're in a trance when they're doing this. So you do this for 10 minutes. So you find 10 minutes, set a timer, and practice this breathing. This is a pathway that you want to practice, because the more you do it, just like when you do reps on a gym, then the muscle understands, okay, this is what it's supposed to do, and then it will build. So the more you do it during sex, when you're having that, you're able to activate this pathway. Then you can stay at that 9.7 or 9.6, or you just won't shoot through to ejaculation so quickly. You can pull out and stretch that time.
That's really interesting. And how does that differ from cooling breath?
Cooling breath is it's a breath that is a pranayama, so yogic breath. And yogic breath is like, there's 2 ways to do it, and it's usually helpful to reduce anxiety, regain control, and relax. So when you're getting really intense, you want to do cooling breath.
Okay.
You curl your tongue together, so like you make an O shape with your tongue, with both the other sides into a cluster, sort of like a straw. So then you suck the air through the middle of your tongue.
Okay.
And then as you exhale, then you can exhale through your nose. So breathe in through the straw. And then exhale through your nose. And then you can already cool your body down. So when you're overheating, you're going to have like a heat stroke, or when you're so excited, you're almost about to ejaculate or climax, you can do that cooling breath to regain control and relaxation. You can exhale through your nose, or you can exhale through your mouth. The nose feels a little bit more cooling. And yeah, that's cooling breath.
That's great. So that takes us to the final relaxation then. So I'll tell you what, why don't you give us all your links, tell us where we can find everything about you and where everyone can go and sign up to your conferences.
So in terms of like retreats and stuff, I do an annual one in Bali. It's called the Miraz retreat, and that's a dance retreat, tantra retreat, and that's together. And then also I run personal tantra retreats, one-on-one half days. So if you're in the UK, if you're anywhere in the world, you can always fly me to you, and we can book a place, and we'll do like a full day, half day, or a 2-day retreat where I teach you the entire program in like a span of 16 hours. And people have done that in 3 half days or 2 full days. And then you can also book in a call with me to chat about whatever it is that you want to chat about and see what personalized program you can have. And that's in the links below. And then I also have the ebook for the 4 tantalizing questions. I have a full-on other book, and then I have a multi-dimensional intimacy ebook, a touch ebook, and then a completion. So after sex, there's like this place where you can discuss all the juicy details, like what was your favorite moment, and to increase connection and love, and also find out moments where there was some chunky bits that you want to iron out or like maybe address. That's called Completion Ritual. I also have that as an ebook that you can also check out. Text us, tell me what you want, and then we'll just send it to you.
That's fantastic. Well, like I said, I'll put everything in the show notes, and it's been up on the screen as well for anybody who's watching the video. Well, it's been
Yes.
it's been really insightful, Hani. It's blown me away. What a great conversation, and I was so excited about that conversation as well, because I've not had anyone on the show yet who has got this experience and knowledge. So thank you so much for sharing that with me, the listeners, and anyone watching. Just on top of that, Hani was telling me that she's got a YouTube as well. So search YouTube, go and get some yoga as well.
Hani Cheng, Cheng. There's a ton of stuff, like there's like something on gushing, like how to touch her yoni. There's like a ton of stuff on there.
Excellent. Pop yourselves over and check it all out. And then make sure that you get updates from us on the podcast. You can leave us a comment. You can head over to Facebook, Gordy Camp TV, or you could go Instagram and Threads at Gordy Camp. Leave us a comment, get involved in our conversation, share the episode, and let everyone know what you've heard or seen today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, I would definitely want to hear what stood out to you the most today in the comments. That'd be so exciting to check out.
Excellent. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.